Hello, good morning. I'm Rawan Nasser. Today we're gonna present the actual revenues of Saudi Arabia in 10 previous years through charts and tables with data analysis. Revenues is the income generated by the enterprise through its economic activity resulting from an increase in the company's assets calculated by multiplying the cost of goods sold and the number of units sold. The Ministry of Finance in Saudi Arabia sets the policies for the budget with complete transparency within the international standards. There's two types of revenues that Kingdom's budget depends on, which are oil revenues and non-oil revenues. Non-oil revenues such as proceeds from property, public property revenues, private property revenues, and taxes and fees revenues. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Naf and I will analyze the revenue from 2011 to 2014. So the actual revenue from fiscal year 2011 increased by 50.7%. These revenues accounted for 107% of GDP. As for the year 2012, actual revenues increased by 11.6%. These revenues accounted for 77.7% of GDP. As for years 2013 and 2014, the actual revenues decreased. For year 2013, it's decreased by 7.3% compared with the 12.6% increase in the previous fiscal year. These revenues accounted for 39.5% of GDP. And actual revenue for fiscal year 2014 decreased by 9.7% compared with a 7.3% decrease in the previous fiscal year. These revenues accounted for 37.3% of GDP.
Hello everyone, my name is Adel Gahtani. I will analysis of revenue development from 2015 to 2019. So actual revenue for fiscal year 2015 decreased by 41% compared with a 9.7% decline in the previous fiscal year to 615 Saudi Riyal 9 billion. These revenues accounted for 25.4% of GDP. Actual revenue for the fiscal year 2016 decreased by 7.15% compared with a 41% decline in the previous year to 4,519 Saudi Riyals billion or 2.21% of GDP. 2017 actual revenue for the fiscal year 2017 increased by 1.33% compared with a 2.15% decline in the previous year to 5.691 billion riyals or 9.26% of GDP. Actual revenue for fiscal year 2018 increased by 4.29% compared to a 1.33% increase in the previous fiscal year to 7,894 billion Saudi Riyal, accounting for 5.30% of GDP. And finally, actual revenue for fiscal year 2019 increased by 3.2% compared with a 0.31% increase in the previous fiscal year to 8,926 billion Saudi riyal. These revenues accounted for 2.31% of GDP.
Everyone, I'm Dima Mohammed. I will talk about corona pandemic and its impact on revenues. The impact of the coronavirus and the decline in world oil prices have been reflected in Saudi budget figures. In an interview with Al Arabiya, Saudi Finance Minister Mohammed Al Jadaan predicted that the deficit would fall in 2021 to about 5.1% of GDP. Saudi Arabia's public debt accounted for 34% of GDP in 2020, while spending increased by about 5% compared to initial estimates. 2020 has been an exceptional year. This table showing comparison of actual revenues from the state budget for 10 consecutive years from 2011 to 2020.
Hello, my name is Reem Al Harbi, and now I will give you some recommendation to increase revenues. To shift part of reserves to raise the assets of the Saudi Public Investment Fund in order to achieve the fund's strategy in supporting the Saudi economy as the active engine in diversifying the kingdom economy, developing strategic sector through the development and maximizing the impact of the fund's investment, and making the fund one of the largest sovereign wealth fund in the world, achieving a much higher return on assets than reserve assets, investing in highly liquid assets, maximizing the assets of the public investment fund, give the kingdom a high credit rating, which is important in attracting foreign investment, reducing financing costs, stabilizing the Saudi riyal, and thus maintaining inflation levels at natural limits. Also, if the state export more value than imports, this leads to trade surplus, or what is known as a positive trade balance. At the end, we conclude from the foregoing that during the period 2011 to 2020, there there were a continuous increases in the volume of government expenditure in Saudi Arabia, coupled with the increase in the volume of government revenues that contribute the formation of the bulk oil revenues. The growth in the volume of public expenditure may be directly proportional. The growth in the volume of oil revenues, the main component of the total public expenditure. We predict that government revenue will be stable in next year due to good monetary policy. Thank you for listening for me.